Jay-Z and Beyonce was looking at each other when Jay-Z was an inappropriate age. Like, there's a significant age gap. You know, now that they're consenting adults, people don't think about it, but when they first met, she was under 18.
Hey, Lit Set, it's Jasmine.
Hey, Lit Set, it's Nikea, and this is Black Girl Lit,
the podcast. We're a podcast now, guys.
Where Black girls are lit,
we get lit,
and we read lit.
This is Black Girl Lit, the podcast.
Hey, Lit Set, it's Nikea back again with the quick lit, drinking my Starbucks chai tea latte. It may be spiked, it may not, because that's my business. My winking is terrible. But I want to go ahead and do my quick lit. I was editing Jazz's quick lit, and I was inspired to go ahead and do mine. Look at me being ahead of schedule. Hers supposed to be posted by now, but I haven't finished editing yet. Life happens. Anywho, alright, today I am going to be discussing Grown by Tiffany D Jackson. And just like Jazz, it's a book that I just listened to, because I do enjoy listening to audiobooks because they allow me to multitask, so I can be cooking, cleaning, and listening to a book, or taking a shower and reading a book at the same time. Let's get into it. Grown by Tiffany D Jackson. This is her newest book. I have now read all of Tiffany's books. Clearly, I'm obsessed with her. I'm going to get into the first segment, which is about the author, Tiffany D Jackson. She is a critically acclaimed YA author. She has won the Coretta Scott King, John Steptoe New Talent Award. Alright, so Tiffany, she received her bachelor's from Howard University, her master's of arts in media studies from the New School, and has over a decade in film and TV. She's a Brooklyn native, a lover of naps, cookie dough, and beaches, currently residing in the borough she loves, most likely multitasking. She grew up in Brooklyn Heights, but also counts places like Fort Greene, Far Rockaway, East New York, and Kingston, Jamaica as her home. But yeah, that's Tiffany. So I like Tiffany because the first book I read of hers, allegedly, loved it. I read Monday's Not Coming. That book is a mind freak. I read it twice. And then I read Let Me Hear a Rhyme. I love it. And Tiffany, I guess from all of her books, she writes about real life. And a lot of her novels are based on or inspired by events that actually happened. Yeah, that's where she takes her interest from, and I guess that's why I'm so into her books. And the only reason her books are considered YA is because they're marketed to young adults and because the characters are young adults. Because a lot of the content, I'm not sure if my child was a young adult, I would have to read it with them just so I can talk to them about these topics, because her topics are heavy. She don't come to play games. But anyhow, let's get into the synopsis. This is where I'm going to flourish and thrive and synopsisize Grown by Tiffany D Jackson. You hear that, Jazz? I'm going to synopsisize and thrive. Period. Okay, so Grown is about a young girl named Enchanted. She comes from a pretty large family, and I guess what I would consider like lower middle class black family. But you know how it is in black families. If your parents want you to have things and want you to have upper leg in life, they're going to do what they need to do to make sure that you have it. So her and her sister go to a private school. She's on the swim team, and you know, they're just out here trying to make it. Enchanted is a singer, and she is super talented, and her parents want her to see it as a hobby, but it's something that she really loves to do. So her friend Gabby gets her to go to this audition for a singing competition show, which she doesn't make it on, but she meets a famous singer named Corey Fields, and that's where her life gets swept up in a whirlwind, because Corey, who is about 10 plus years her senior, begins to develop an interest in her, and Enchanted is navigating the situation of balancing her singing career, catching feelings for this older man, and hiding it from her parents and trying to figure out, like, is this right? Is this what I need to do? And just getting swept up in the music industry, in the singing world, and then losing herself and finding herself once again and realizing what was really going on in her life. And I think that is what I can say without saying too much. And that is a high-level view of Grown by Tiffany D Jackson. How'd I do, y'all? I did good. I never read the synopsis of the book. I follow Tiffany on social media, and that's what like interests me in the book. Just her posting about it and talking about it. And she was writing this during the time of, I think when she was writing it, like the Me Too movement and all that stuff with R. Kelly was going down. So it was just very timely. So I was just interested in how she was going to write this and handle it. All right, on to our next segment, which is my initial reactions, just how I felt about the novel as I was reading it, any questions that need answers, points of interest, okay? Okay, so my initial reactions are, I just have a few, and I just kind of had to think back, because this is a recent read, but I have also read some books in between last putting this book down. But first of all, I was ready for this book. Like I said, I follow Tiffany on social media, so I saw her posting about it, talking about it. I was ready. So as soon as it was available in my library, I went on hold for the book and the audiobook. So whichever one came up first, that's how I was gonna read this novel. Then I did not know what to expect too much from it because I had not watched the R. Kelly stuff, and I still haven't watched the Being R. Kelly stuff. I've just heard, people talk about it in passing and what happened. So I didn't know how she was going to, navigate through the topics that were going to be discussed. Although she does mention that this is not based on R. Kelly and his situation. It just so happens that R. Kelly did some of the same stuff. Period. I'm so glad that I'm used to Tiffany's writing. So if you have not read any of her books, it's a little bit of an adjustment to get used to, especially Monday's Not Coming, because Monday's Not Coming jumps back and forth between timelines because the main character has like memory loss. So it goes between before she lost her memory and before her friend died, after her friend died, her actually reliving her friend dying 2 years later after it happened, her actually going through the actual moment where her friend died. So it's really complicated. You have to piece it together. You really have to listen when you're reading that book. And the same thing goes with this one. And I think because I'm familiar with Tiffany's writing, I was better able to keep track of the timeline because baby, woo, they was jumping. It was going to like before and now and during and after. It was doing a whole lot of jumping between timelines. But because I'm familiar with her writing, like I said, I could understand it. The narrator was so magnificent. I do not remember her name right now. The narrator is Janice Abbott Pratt. She's a good narrator. And I think anyone who can narrate a book and like change their voice, because you have like your narrator voice and you have a voice for each character, and to be able to change it so quickly, she did an excellent job. And it kept the flow of the story, and it didn't feel like too stagnant or like iffy, wishy-washy type stuff. I was angry with Enchanted and her parents at the time because I'm like, Enchanted, this dude is grown, kind of text you and doing inappropriate stuff. Like, you don't know that that's wrong? Like, and then I try to think back, like, if I was her age, like, if I was 16, 17 and an older guy was texting me, like, how would I feel? I remember being young and like interested in this teenage guy, so I don't know. I didn't have a phone back then, like, so there wasn't so much access, but I don't know what I would have done. Now that I think about it, I'm like, I feel bad for putting this judgment on her because I know now, but you don't know what you don't know. But I was just mad at them. I feel like her parents should have known, but they were fans of Corey, and he was saying all the right things and apparently giving all the right papers, so I was mad at them. But then I was also sympathetic towards Enchanted because she was being used, lied to, abused, misused, all that, mistreated, and I just felt sympathy for her. And she was just she's the oldest, and she's trying to do the best for her family, and that's what she thought she was doing, and she thought she had to do certain things to provide for her family. And I really felt sympathy towards her. But a lot of times I was mad. I was excited to hear at the beginning that she had short hair and that she was a swimmer, because a lot of times main characters in novels, period, black, white, whatever, they always have to have long, beautiful hair or have big curly hair, you know, to be beautiful. And I appreciate that Enchanted, she felt beautiful with her shortcut, some earrings, a little bit of lip gloss, and she was on and popping. And her hair also allowed her to have a bonding experience with her father, which I thought was really dope. The aftermath made me nervous after all of the drama and trauma happened, and Corey being dead and Gabby not being found. I was like, oh, this is another Monday Not Coming situation. I was like, this book had me on edge. And lastly, I hated Corey from the beginning, and I guess because I knew the premise of the story a little bit, I knew he was gonna be trash. And he became trash so quickly. He didn't even ease into it. Like, it was just who he was. And those are my reactions. I know I went a little deep. All right, now we're going on to the next segment, which is major scenes and topics. All right, y'all, of course, there's a lot of major scenes, there's a lot of topics. There's some scenes I'm not gonna talk about because it's gonna give away stuff and I don't wanna spoil this book. This is a book you don't wanna spoil. You wanna read and discover what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna start with the major topics. Of course, rape culture, age gaps in relationships, parental control and guidance, pedophilia, community and family support, and recovery from trauma. Those aren't all the main topics. Those are just the ones that I pulled out and that stood out to me. Also, major scenes would be Enchanted going to the audition. The way she got to the audition was she lied to her mom that she needed to go to a swim meet. So that is the catalyst of everything that happens, you know, thereafter. It's kind of like the forward motion. So if she hadn't lied, then this probably never would have happened. Also, there's a scene where Enchanted goes to a dance with her group. It's kind of like Jack and Jill, and they go to a youth dance, and one of her fellow chapter members, you know, begins to sexually assault her, and she's like, oh, no, and she calls Corey to rescue her. Of all people. I was like, no, girl, he's not the one. Don't call him. Don't do it. But she calls him to save her, and I feel like that's another big moment that pushes the story forward. She sees him as a savior, somebody that's there to help her, to protect him, which this is all a setup. He's just grooming her. There's multiple scenes of her being trapped, locked in a room. Ooh, those are major, because that's him just pushing her mental to the break, where she can't eat, she can't use the bathroom, she can't speak to anybody, and that's him just starting to groom her to say, I'm the only one that's here for you. I punish you when you're wrong, and if you do what I say, everything's gonna be all right. Another major scene for me was when Enchanted's mom was talking to the mothers that are a part of the Jack and Jill group. Enchanted's mom is talking to the other mothers from that group, and they begin to, initially they're like against her, and they're like, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, it's your fault. And then one of the mothers was like, Enchanted's mom was like, y'all said this was gonna be a family. I thought y'all were gonna support me. And then the other mothers start to come around like, you know what? You're right. We're supposed to be a family, we're supposed to support each other and do everything that we can, because a lot of these mothers in the group have high power positions. They have big connections. They're like doctors and lawyers, and they're connected to people that could help out their situation, which I think is major. That's where I brought out the topic, like the community and family and support, because a lot of times in the community, period, in the Black community, we always like, oh, it's the parents' fault, you shouldn't have done this, or this is what you should have done, instead of rallying behind each other and getting the full story and supporting each other. I'm not saying support each other in dead wrongness or whatever, but you have to look beyond yourself. And I think this goes to the idea that we as Black people have to stop looking out for ourselves and actually pull each other up, you know? Like, I got here, so sis, I'm gonna reach back and I'm gonna pull you up. I think that is brought about in this story in a good way. And I think another thing that Tiffany really brings to light is there's like Facebook posts in the story or social media posts, and people are talking about what happened because Corey winds up dead, and they're trying to figure out who killed him, and people are blaming Enchanted's parents. They blame her that she should have known better. Some people blame Corey, and people have diehard fans. And this is where the issue comes in rape culture in our country and in our world, because in the book it talks about people around Corey, this superstar, knew that he was doing this stuff, and they didn't say anything. They probably knew it. They should have known it was wrong, and they didn't say anything. And rape culture is just ingrained in our society, even, and not just in men, and women too. There's some women who will look at something going on and just turn their eye and walk away. And I've never been a witness to my knowledge, to a situation where I felt another woman was unsafe or needed my help. But I hope that if I ever found myself in that situation, that I could look at it and be like, okay, this is not going to happen, and I could be the person to help that person and reach out to them. But it's just, rape culture is rampant in this country. Victim blaming, victim shaming. It's always, they never believe the victim. Even if they come out and say, oh, he raped me. Oh, but didn't you do this? Didn't you do that? Didn't you do this? Or he hit me. Oh, well, didn't you do this? Like, she did something to provoke or promote this behavior. No, that's not okay. And I think Tiffany's book is a book that needs to be read to get the conversation started about these things, because, and even to keep the conversation going about these things, because I feel like when I don't think the whole Me Too movement has stopped, but it was popular on social media. You know, people were talking about it, people were getting fired, and now we're at a point people aren't talking about that right now. Yes, there are things going on in the world, lots of things, but it still needs to be a conversation going on, because it's something that is happening. Rape culture is just disgusting in this country, in this world in general. It should be, when somebody hears about rape, we need to be on the side of the victim, and we need to use all the resources, do everything that we can to help this victim out, to find out what's happened, to seek out this person, and stop letting these people in power use their power to hurt people. Like, after Enchanted came out of the situation that she was in, she was effed up in the head. Like, she was messed up, and she's never gonna be the same person again. And even the way her parents reacted towards her was really weird. That relationship was strange, because her dad is like, this is my baby girl, and I saw a sex tape that might have been her. Like, I don't know how to react anymore. And then her parents want to go to a point of always sheltering her and keeping her close and keeping her in. And then her sister was mad at her and blamed her sister for, Enchanted's younger sister was blaming her for everything that was going on with their family, and, you know, why she couldn't do what she needs to do in school. She's like, I'm just a freshman, I'm trying to adjust, and then I got to deal with your crap. So it's just, Tiffany touches on a lot of topics, and she comes from a lot of different standpoints in this novel. And I do want to mention, at the end of the novel, she states that this is not based on R. Kelly. This is not. So, and I can appreciate that she did not base this on him, because he's not the only one who has done this, okay? And who has done things like this to his victims. And I'm sure Tiffany has taken an amalgamation of stories and things that she's heard, or she's heard other people experience, and put them together. But I just appreciate her wholeheartedly for coming from so many different perspectives. And she even mentions her own story about dating somebody that was significantly older than her when she was under the age where it was, you know, inappropriate. And the moms in the novel mention relationships that they had where they dated somebody that was, you know, outside of their age range, that was inappropriate. I think the oldest I've dated is maybe 2 or 3 years older than me, and I was 18 at the time. So yeah, I just think, again, rape culture is a problem in this country. We have to acknowledge it. And even, you know, relationships that we admire today, like the first one that comes to mind is, I see people tweet this a lot, like, are we going to acknowledge that Jay-Z and Beyonce was looking at each other when Jay-Z was an inappropriate age? Like, there's a significant age gap. You know, now that they're consenting adults, people don't think about it, but when they first met, she was under 18. Think on that. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I'm really getting emboldened and impassioned about this thing, honey. But read the book to get more tea on major scenes and topics. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm gonna rate this book. right, if y'all have been hiding under a rock, have been watching our videos, listening to our podcast, you don't know that we have updated our rating scale. So we have added a 5th element to our rating scale so we can better parallel our ratings from Goodreads over to Black Girl Lit. Because as you know, on Goodreads, on Amazon, on most book places, you have to rate your book out of 5 stars. And we only had 4 elements to rate our books. So we still have sober, buzz, tipsy, faded, and lit. So faded is our new element right in between tipsy and lit. You know that good happy place. I tell you, faded rating reminds me of you've been drinking and somebody passed you a blunt and you get a little high and you get a little drunk at the same time. And then lit, you just, you know. So we just added that one in between there. So for me, I'm going to rate this book a lit. It is lit for me. 100%. When I was writing my review on Goodreads for this book, I really didn't know what to say. But I just, I read this book, listened to it in 3 days, y'all. Crazy. I said, wow, it's all that I can say. Tiffany really laid it all out on the table with this one. I've read all of her previous novels and I'm glad because I am used to her writing style now. This book felt so real. I felt like I knew the characters. I felt so many emotions while reading this. This book left me in awe. This is a sensitive topic that needs to be discussed and Tiffany did an excellent job of presenting all aspects. All I can say is kudos and round of applause and chef's kiss. Just read it, please. And listen to women and respect women. Listen to Black women and respect Black women. The book also proves that it is time to overturn the system and fight the power. And that's on period. But that's it for today's Quick Lit, y'all. Thank you so much for watching, or thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and listen to our podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Podcasts to stay in tune with us. Follow us on Instagram at blackgirllit_ to chat with us, to engage, to be on the up and up, to know what's going on with Black Girl Lit. Check out our website, this is blackgirllit.com, to get some merch, and I will be sure to see you all in our next podcast, YouTube video, book review. Until then, stay Black Girl Lit. Bye. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star rating and a top-notch review to get us to the top review page on iTunes. And be sure to follow us and listen on SoundCloud.